You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYBC.
WCYTV
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. I hope you are ready for a Ragnarok wrecking festival from the Oval Office itself and more controversy and conspiracy than any election within 50 miles of Chicago. And then, of course, Congress up to their dear old nonsense. We're going to dig into that. First and foremost, we have to tackle some of the breaking news on foot here. That beginning with a condemnation from the House of Representatives on socialism. So the House got together and decided that what we needed right now, after botching the Plaskett censorship and trading it for Representative Corey Mills, one of the grossest members on the Republican side of the aisle. Can't really say all Congress because then he doesn't make like the top 50. But if we say the Republican side of the aisle, he's not particularly an individual whom many of us would say that we enjoy out on the congressional side of things. Well, my dear friends and pals, I regret to inform you that the grand idea they came up with was just condemning socialism in general. Now, condemning socialism is a very good thing. We have a lot of people right now in the country who have no idea the horrors that those from Cuba and from Venezuela, those who lived under the Soviet Union, those who have lived under the great tyrannies that come with state-run society, they don't understand what socialism is. They think it's a magical ticket to utopia and sunshine and friendship. Well, it is absolutely not. And we know this because of all of human history has made it explicitly clear that the foolishness of a society repeating the follies of socialism will come back to haunt it again and again and again. Now, those things all said, I do want to dive into the particular vote right off the top of the bat. The House was able to condemn socialism as a party. Here was that earlier today.
On this vote, the yeas are 285 and the nays are 98, with 2 answering present. The concurrent resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Now, you had a lot of Democrats, about 98 of them or so, that got out there and said, I don't condemn socialism. And they voted no. And that was touted as a win for Republicans. Oh, it's great. Look, we've got them to claim, yes, they don't like socialism. Guys, Democrats have been running on socialism for the last 10 to 15 years in the open. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, all the way up to Bernie Sanders, has got it out there and said the socialism is just the people. And the democracy and the socialism, they mix together like tapioca and pudding. I love the tapioca. And that's been the entire party platform for the youths. Because right now, there really is no old labor base, the union base, that despises socialism and still likes, for example, larger government intervention on like Social Security, for instance, which is like pseudo corporate socialism, for example. The party's already there. So again, I'm all for forcing individuals to take sides. But remember, Winsome Earl Sears forced Abigail Spanberger in Virginia to accept the guys and gals locker rooms thing. And did that shift Virginia? No. No, it didn't. There's going to need to be a little bit more than that. Now, the other reason that we walked forward the socialism condemnation, again, a good thing in general, but not actually politically effective, was because Mamdani, Zohran Mamdani, the proud socialist Marxist, was coming to the White House because he's the mayor-elect of New York City. He got in front of everyone and said, I told you I wouldn't need your money. I need your money because I've never done anything like this. Surprisingly, shirtless apron rap careers don't prepare you to be the mayor of New York. They might prepare you to be the personal chef for J.B. Pritzker, but not the mayor of New York. So Mamdani is on his way to the White House, and everyone's thinking, ooh, what's going to happen? A friend of mine, our political editor here at the Daily Signal, put out a tweet, like a betting market tweet. What's the over and under on the handshake between Mamdani and Trump? Is it going to be like a fight, grip, man-to-man struggle? Is it going to be really quick and friendly? How's Trump going to treat Zohran Mamdani? And there were a lot of people who were really, really excited or outraged over this meeting. I'm going to level with you. I am a Hoosier here in the Beltway. I despise Washington, D.C. It smells. Tim Burchett, who just got done on our show explaining how Washington, D.C. is not a swamp, it is a sewer, and it smells and acts like a sewer. Again, there are protesters out there right now calling me various wonderful names, and they, in fact, do smell. Last night, a woman either tried to sell me crack or show me her crack. I'm not entirely sure, but it smelled terrible. I hate it here, but I'm going to level with you. The people that really cared about Trump meeting with Zohran Mamdani today, guys, that's not a big deal. It's not. Donald Trump has met with any Democrat in this country who's willing to meet with him, any of them. And you think that Mamdani isn't going to try to come down here and like schmooze Trump a little bit? The man took photos with Alex Soros. Of course, in front of media, he's going to get out there like Gretchen Whitmer or Gavin Newsom and say, I'm going to fight Trump. I'm so strong and tough and I'm a big boy. But then when it gets down to it, Gretchen Whitmer, who probably isn't a boy, says, okay, fine, I'll like work with you, Trump, just a little. And Gavin Newsom says, well, like, thanks for coming to talk about the fires, Mr. President. Every Democrat leader does, at least to the face of the president, unless you're Pelosi and you're sucking on your dentures. You do have to kind of work with the president because otherwise you don't get those federal stacks. So what actually happened? What actually happened? And by the way, sorry, really quickly here, one comment that has come through before I get to this is correct. From Bera H&G. Trump has literally sat down and negotiated with the Taliban. He's a pragmatist, and he always has been. Correct. Correct. Now, as a pundit or a newscaster, I'm not supposed to really give you my take until after we get through the clips. But the comments already have it correct. He's a pragmatist. He'll sit down and meet with anybody. He'd even meet down with you, even if you were stinky and smelly. But I do, in fact, digress. The president, up first, they talked a little bit about ICE, because the real question on brass tacks is not whether Mamdani thinks Trump is a fascist or whether Trump thinks Mamdani is a jihadist. The real question that's actually going to matter to New Yorkers is Mamdani going to replace the police department in New York with a bunch of lesbian basket weaving social workers? That's the real question, right? That is the real question. What are the law enforcement who do answer to the mayor directly? What are they going to be allowed to do? Here was the president talking about that with Mamdani right next to him today and talking for him, which we'll get to. Here you go.
Mr. President, you've threatened to send federal troops to New York City. You both have differences when it comes to ICE agents in New York City. Mr. Mamdani, you've called ICE a rogue government entity. I wonder how you reconcile your differences on both of those issues.
Well, I think we're going to work them out. And I think that if we have known murderers and known drug dealers and some very bad people, you know, we want to get them out. And the mayor wants to have peace. We discussed this at great length, actually, maybe more than anything else. He wants to have a safe New York. Ultimately, a safe New York is going to be a great New York. If it's not safe, no matter how well we do with pricing and with anything else, we can talk about anything you want. If you don't have safe streets, it's not going to be a success. So we're going to work together. We're going to make sure that if there are horrible people there, we want to get them out. I think he wants to get them out, maybe more than I do. So we'll work together. We discussed it at great length.
So, yeah, not a terrible answer. Not a terrible answer. Now, there is again, as many times as I'm sure you are sick of me bringing up the book Starship Troopers by Robert Heinlein, not the 90s comedy and satire. There is a moment in a latter portion of the book in which the commandant is talking to young men and he's trying to scare them to death before he sends them into the field. And every time the commandant wants a particular answer, he asks a certain individual or he speaks himself. There is a tactic in negotiation and leadership where you let your opponent or you let the youth, the intern, the employee lower down on the totem pole, answer the easy questions, the softball pitches, the fluff. And then when it comes time to the big questions, you step in and you answer for both of you. This is, from my perspective, am I a master psychologist? No. Am I a body language expert? No. Am I Donald Trump? No, I'm not. I am, from my own humble Hoosier upbringing here, an average American, I'd like to say. This is an off-the-rack suit. Trump is just doing that strategy here. When it came to the serious questions, Trump downplayed a heavy criticism in the way that he has with every major Democrat that has been in any kind of an interview or a meeting with the president, or Xi, or Kim Jong-un, or Putin, or insert leader here. Whenever Trump is dealing with an actual adversary, in face, in person, he will bully up to the pulpit, no pun intended there, and then he will start to answer the question for both of them and say, I think that at the end of the day, he wants to be a reasonable guy. I mean, look at him over there. He's got a smile. I like that smile. And then he answers for them because he is controlling and shaping the narrative. That's not 4D chess. There are people out there today who are saying, oh, Trump's out here doing 4D chess, hyper chemistry, excellent strategy. No, he's doing the same negotiation tactics and strategy that he has used since he was a kid, and he learned it from his dad, and in real estate and development and management, and then later on in entertainment negotiation. It's the same Trump it's always been. And I say this to you because what you're going to hear in the next couple of days are the pearl clutchers that sprint out. Sorry, I'm not in the home studio. I left my freshwater pearls at home. Unfortunately, the pearl clutching will revolve around, is Trump betraying conservatism? Oh, no. Is Trump, forcing Mamdani into a fascist coup? No. And there were some goofy moments where Trump made it very, very clear right off the top of the bat that he wasn't in the mood to play silly, goofy nonsense that the press was expecting. The press wanted a boxing match. Yeah. That's why we sent our White House correspondent, Elizabeth, there. We wanted to see a boxing match. That's what the press wants. Why? Because it's fun to clip and share with you. And then Zohran Mamdani goes for the right jihadist hook straight out of Islamabad. I mean, that's something that's fun to report. No. And the best case, and a reminder again that Trump is an entertainer first and a regular guy when it comes to addressing these things, they ask the golden question from the media. And everyone from Reuters to the Associated Press, from CNN to MSNBC, all the way from Axios to that one blue paper that comes out of, I think the Boston Globe is still in operation, maybe. Everyone was waiting. Is Trump a fascist? Zohran Mamdani, he's going to be the guy to stand up to Trump. He yelled at Tom Homan. He had to be held back, probably. Here was that particular question, and then, observe how it was handled.
He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist, and your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Mm-hmm. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
And Mr. President, I wanted to ask you also...
All right. Side note, because the media is currently losing it and going, Trump just admitted to being a fascist. No. No, he didn't. The question that everyone has asked Zohran Mamdani about Donald Trump is, do you think he's a big, bad, stinky man? And Mamdani has called him a fascist and a dictator and a thug and all these other things. So they gave him the opportunity to ask. And when you get into the room with the person that you've been criticizing over the internet and over camera for months, all of a sudden you get this weird little chihuahua moment. And the chihuahua moment is when you have a chihuahua who thinks he's tough man protecting the property. And he is separated by a window or a chain link fence from a Doberman. And boy, as long as that fence is there, that little puppy, yip, 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 aggressive, angry, ready to go. And then you take the fence away, you open the fence gate, you open the window, and all of a sudden that little tiny doggy realizes, yeah, it's the Ralph Wiggum from The Simpsons. I'm in danger. And Mamdani starts to obfuscate. He's like, sounds like Cory Booker trying not to defecate on the floor of the Senate. And Trump comes in and says, you can call me a fascist. You can call me whatever you like, but your mother's calling me in the morning. And that's how Trump handles those things. It was good. It's funny. That is, in fact, how one should handle it. Now, moving from there, we get to the jihadist question. So now we hit it to Trump, the other side. Trump was called a fascist. Now, Trump, do you call Mamdani a jihadist? Are we going to see Sharia law on the streets of New York, Mr. President?
Please.
Mr. President, Republican Elise Stefanik has campaigned multiple times by calling Zohran Mamdani a jihadist. Do you think you're standing next to a jihadist right now in the Oval Office?
No, I don't, but she's out there campaigning, and, you say things sometimes in a campaign.
Isn't that sort of...
She's a very capable person,
but
you really have to ask her about that, but I don't particularly. I think I met with a man who's a very rational person. I met with a man who really wants to see New York be great again. And I can say again, because New York was great. You know, when
it's a pretty decent deflection. If Trump goes out there, and we've said this before, why doesn't Trump come out there and condemn Putin? When Trump gets in front of Putin, why doesn't he get out there and bare his teeth and yell and the yellow hairs are flying and he says, screw you, and gives him the double bird and that kind of a thing? Because that's A, not his style, and B, how are you supposed to negotiate with anyone or intimidate through negotiation or quid pro quo for negotiation if you have walked in and flipped the table immediately? It doesn't work. It doesn't. And as much as Mamdani may sympathize with the radical Muslim crowd because it is A, politically convenient, and he does believe in the effects of tearing down what he calls the oppressive crew, even though, again, there has not been a single crew more oppressive, more engaging in the slaughter of women and children and the slave trade as well as the Muslim caliphates throughout history. But if Trump goes in and says that, then the entire point of the meeting is undermined. Doesn't mean that he doesn't get out there and call things, balls and strikes. But alas, when the point of the meeting is to negotiate an adversary, by the way, just to make this clear, this is why the meeting with Zelensky went differently. A little unpopular opinion here. The reason that the meeting with Zelensky went poorly is not because if Zelensky was an adversary to Trump, Trump would have treated him the exact same way that he treated Mamdani or Putin or Xi or and on and on and on. No, when it comes to an ally, then it's toe to toe and iron it out and hustle and fight. And are you an ally or are you just a grubber? How much on my side are you? Can you help me or not? Then things get interesting. The reason I talk about this at the beginning, again, the takes were terrible. Now, a friend of the show, a friend of mine, Jack Posobiec, over at Human Events, he did get a chance today to hit Mamdani on some excellent questions. He hit him, for example, on the claim that Mamdani made that there were these richer, whiter neighborhoods in New York, and that Mamdani was going to make sure that money flowed away from these whiter neighborhoods, all that nonsense that typically comes with the critical race theory theme of governance in society. And good on Posobiec for hitting Mamdani squarely in the jaw over this today. Here was that. Man, one of these days the clip's just not loading. We'll have to come back to that one later. Posobiec did an excellent job of hitting him pretty squarely in the teeth. Now, this does, for just a moment here, remind just the entire crew, as journalists, when you are interviewing a subject, whatever subject, whomever it may be, it is incumbent on you to actually ask tough questions and follow-ups when you are given kind of a walk around the park, goofy answer from an individual. All right, I think I might have that clip ready to go here. I'm gonna roll it through if I can. It's loading at the moment. When you have an opportunity to ask tough questions to an interview subject, and you instead goof out, choose something else to talk about, you don't really dig into it, you are at that point a major discredit to those who are tuning into the coverage. There are questions that need to be asked of Mamdani that are tough. Here you go. I think we actually have it ready to play here.
Is manageable to actually get through and not the cause of yet another weight that we see in our city.
To be clear, you're continuing this idea of race-based property taxes.
No, to be very clear,
that's what you said.
No, the use of the term was a description of neighborhoods, not a description of intent.
So
Uh-huh.
you intend to tax the whiter neighborhoods more?
No, we intend to create a fair property tax system because we want a New York City that is not only fair and equitable, but also one that every New Yorker can afford.
That was an excellent example of Jack Posobiec not budging. When someone tells you a lie and someone says, no, I didn't, nuh-uh, Jack immediately responded, yes, you did. We have the transcripts, we have the data. You said whiter neighborhoods would be taxed more so that money would flow into blacker and browner neighborhoods, whatever the bleep that means. Again, always funny to me how groups that were not considered white 150 years ago, in the terms of Mamdani, all of a sudden, Italians, the Irish, all of a sudden they're the whitest guys ever. But I digress. the hilariousness of this situation to me is that there are a lot of journalists, wannabe journalists on the right, who don't understand one of the key elements of journalism in general, which is you have to pay the bleep attention. There are a lot of people who think you can just write your question down and go and say, okay, hi, my name is Steve, and then you ask a question, and then you get walked over. Because experienced politicians know very much how to obfuscate. A lot of excellent pundits know how to obfuscate and waltz past issues that they do or they don't know. Because a lot of people think it makes you look really terrible to either admit to something and then defend it, even if it's hard, or to say, I don't know. My choice here on the show with y'all when I don't know something is to tell you I don't know. Or when a clip won't load or play, tell you that. I tend to think that makes you more forgiving when I make mistakes. But for those who choose the obfuscation route, if you're going to be a reporter or a journalist, or you're going to be a pundit, you're going to get in there and you're going to fight. Maybe you're a candidate, maybe you're a delegate, maybe you're someone in the bureaucracy. You must pay attention, because as soon as they slip, you must hold them accountable immediately. And that's something that Jack did very, very well there. Just something that I thought should be mentioned before we leave behind the meeting everyone thought was so deeply important. Is Trump becoming Mamdani? Is it all over? No, it's not. Stop it. Stop it. No. Now, let's talk about Congress, because Congress has been a mess. It has disappointed me greatly. I've received several emails, comments over on YouTube and Rumble that have said that, well, I've never seen you angrier than you were in the last episode. Yeah, I am still very, very upset about Plaskett essentially getting off scot-free over in the House. But we'll get to Plaskett here in a minute. There is a far worse thing to discuss at the moment. Sheila down in Florida, Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick, and several co-defendants were caught stealing federal disaster funds and laundering the proceeds, and then using said monies to support her 2021 congressional campaign. Now, think about what's happened in the last 5 or 6 years. Consider, question if you might, how many times you have been told that there was no fraud, waste, or abuse at all in the Biden administration's government. Consider how many times you were told that if you asked any questions at all, then you were undermining the faith of Americans in that institution. During the election, questions about FEMA and whether they were giving aid, disaster recovery materials to certain individuals. You were not only told you were crazy, you were told you were unpatriotic, you were evil, how dare you disparage these people. You think that she just fleeced, as in she went and pickpocketed a FEMA worker, took the FEMA MasterCard, and then swiped it a bunch of times and then ran off giggling like Stewie? No, she had inside help. These federal agencies are corrupt, they are rotten, and they suck. Tear them down. And you and I have been told consistently there's no issue with this. Oh, everything's fine, it's wonderful. And when you ask the Democrats, who, by the way, they've already decided quite clearly that Donald Trump is guilty of each and everything under the sun, like Al Green, Mr. Dastardly Deeds Undone, we'll get to in a minute here. But when it comes to a Democrat shoving federal officers on camera, shout out to the Kool-Aid man, LaMonica McIver over in New Jersey, or whether we're talking about blatant mortgage fraud or blatant bank fraud about a mortgage, we're told, well, innocence until proven guilty kind of things. Hakeem Jeffries, who is, again, one of just the saddest individuals to ever hear speak at all, he had a few things to say in defense of Sheila. Well, before we even get to her statement here, before he even knows anything, he's ready. Innocence until proven guilty. Hakeem's ready to defend. Here you go.
What I'm suggesting is that anyone who has been indicted is entitled to the presumption of innocence. In fact,
he didn't do any of that when there were Republicans who were indicted for things. He didn't do any of that. Remember George Santos, who was guilty of a lot of different things? Hakeem Jeffries was the leading voice that says he's guilty or he wouldn't be here. Throw the louse out. Old naval cadence. Hakeem Jeffries' decision here to go out in defense of each and every Democrat in his party is sad and pathetic. It is even more sad and pathetic when you and I both know they're not going to get this goober, this Sheila lady, Sheila McCormick, out of Congress. Either you think they're going to censure her? Absolutely not. They couldn't even censure LaMonica McIver. They couldn't get through with censuring one of the squad's jihadi crew. They can't follow through with censuring Plaskett, a no-vote member of the Virgin Islands delegation, who coordinated directly with Jeffrey Epstein and was taking direct orders from him in committee. So what makes you think they're going to go after someone who has very clearly embezzled funds from FEMA? And then, again, guys, I've said this so many times. I'm begging any members of Congress. I'm here in D.C. If you're a Republican or Democrat, you want to reach out and talk, you don't know whether you should commit a certain type of fraud, I'm going to walk you through the number one rule. Quit committing the kinds of fraud that are so easily traceable by paper. Now, as an American, I want you to continue being that stupid. But if we're talking on a personal advice moment here, if you're going to be so stupid, do you have to commit the most obvious, stupid, traceable kinds that aren't just leaving one paper trail? If you embezzle funds from a federal agency, that's leaving a paper trail. But if you then reinvest those funds in your own campaign, Moses in a basket floating down the Nile to pharaohs, are you seriously that dumb? Yes, she is. Because when she's asked about this, when it comes time to, give her a little opportunity to defend herself here, her statement is actually, is because I'm black. I don't know if you know this, but there are a lot of kind of gross stereotypes about black people. And if you're caught stealing something, if your immediate response is, well, I'm black, you are doing a really heavy disservice and, by the way, insulting the people who share your skin color. If I'm hanging out around here, just, doing my own thing, and I get raging drunk. I mean raging. I tip back 3 bottles of whiskey, and I get really, really, really drunk. And my boss comes up and says, Tony, you're like sauced. You're loaded. Forget 3 sheets to the wind. It's half a Spanish Armada, dude. You're really drunk. And I go, oh, come on. I'm a registered member of the Cherokee tribe. Duh. You should have known not to criticize me for drinking. I'm Native American. Oh my gosh. How insulting to the rest of people whom share my lineage. I digress. Here's Sheila. See what I'm talking about.
Hi.
Your thoughts on the indictment, please.
Well, it's an unjust indictment, and it seems like these intimidation tactics have been pervasive. We spent all week seeing different members getting censured, all in hopes of intimidating and kind of distracting from the Epstein files. And I look forward to my day in court so I can prove myself and actually state the truth. But if this is what Congress...
I'm going to level with y'all real quick. Just another really hot take here, because I have, I've criticized people for talking too much, before they have their big magical day in court. You don't have to wait until court to prove that you're innocent. You know that, right? Like, for example, again, God forbid, someone accuses me of something really, really terrible, some kind of really heavy crime. Amazingly enough, you can simply say, here's the evidence. I didn't do any of this, and it's ridiculous that you're bringing this before me. But if you go, I'm going to wait for months as federal, the federal officials continue to roll out receipts from embezzling funds from FEMA. Remember when we were told FEMA didn't have enough money to make it through hurricane season later on? This woman took $5 million. Just, the blatant corruption is so incredible. We'll let her finish here because, again, she's not going to prove that she's innocent now. Oh, no. That's going to wait.
This is becoming where they're always trying to intimidate you, scare tactics, especially attacking minorities, black and brown people. Then we're going to have to keep fighting for the district. And everybody has...
If they're going to keep going after black and brown minority people, you were caught stealing. They're not going after you because you are black. Again, we've got a lot to talk about with old Tim Walz, who is wider than a Disney movie in 1936, Chief. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, we again, equal opportunity records. Adam Schiff's look pretty white to me. Eric Swalwell doesn't exactly come from New Delhi. I don't know what to tell you. Looking at a lot of these mortgage fraud cases, I'm looking at a lot of these embezzlement cases. It seems to me that they're just going after people who committed the blatant fraud. Incredible. I know we're dropping a lot of like hot knowledge here on the Tony Kinnett cast, but just one of those things.
It's been giving me so much support, and we're going to keep fighting until the district gets what it needs, which is fair prices, housing, and fair representation of Congress.
Did
so thank you so
improperly
much.
What's your response to the calls from some of your colleagues to step down or resign?
They didn't elect me. It was my district, and so we'll keep fighting for the people and keep.
Some of your colleagues are saying resign. They didn't elect me. My people did. And whom does the embezzlement of funds affect directly? Sheila. Because it looks to me, just from my end of the didgeridoo here, Sheila, that the taxpayers who fund FEMA and those who need the services of FEMA are defrauded. Like some of those in your district that were affected by the subsequent hurricanes after your embezzlement, Sheila. The Democrat from Florida, the coastal hurricane region doing the embezzling. That's wild stuff. Now, Hakeem didn't only go to bat for Sheila today. He also went to bat again for Stacey Plaskett. Here you go.
Have you spoken to Stacey Plaskett after this controversy emerged?
I have not.
Can you confirm if there was?
Have you talked to Stacey Plaskett after this controversy emerged? He said, and I quote, "I have not." Now he's going to be asked why.
Deal last night to sink the resolution against Congressman Plaskett in exchange for not bringing a censure resolution.
We've made clear repeatedly we're not going to unilaterally disarm.
So you're saying there was no deal?
I'm saying we will not unilaterally disarm. Not now, not ever.
Mr. Leader, why wouldn't you speak to Stacey Plaskett?
I said I haven't spoken to her since the censure resolution went down.
No, but...
Wait a minute there. Now he's changed it. He says, I haven't spoken to her since the censure resolution went down. Before it was, I haven't spoken to her since the controversy broke out here. Now you can see he's got kind of the worried and droopy dog concerned look. Oh, dear.
This text controversy.
I have not spoken to her since the censure resolution went down.
Have you talked to her about this text controversy?
She and I have talked, and it's a private conversation that will...
Whoa! Now it's she and I have talked. So if it's true, let's take him at face value here. A little hard to do. William Shatner mixed with Obama here. We'll give him a second. Let's take him at his word. He says, I have not spoken to her since the controversy broke out. That would include then pass the censure resolution here. Would that mean he spoke to her about the Epstein situation before that became public knowledge through the Epstein file release? Because either he's a liar to the reporters here, or he's a liar to the American people. He said, I had no idea about that. I had no idea about any of this. My emails to the Epstein's crew too. I have no idea how he got my personal number. Gee, wow. If you are going to be stupid, at least have a little bit of talent in how you're stupid. Now that's unfair of me. It's unfair of me because of how Jasmine Crockett comes to defend the goodness of, well, at least I suppose, the hyper intelligence that Jasmine Crockett brings to the table to defend Stacey Plaskett. But before we get over there, before we even tackle this, I want to mention, because we have started new work with the Rumble crew, brand new work with the Rumble crew. And so therefore, I'm going to encourage you that if you haven't already, make sure that you download the Rumble app. It's free, simple to use, and the best way to stay connected to the content that you want. Once you've got it, of course, you can search for us over here at the Daily Signal. You can click follow. That way you'll get a notification every time we go live. No missed shows, no extra steps. If we put a naughty word for the algorithm in the title that perhaps those over on the alphabet side of things don't like, it won't matter a bit. You can grab it right now, of course, heading over to rumble.com, or we'll make sure near the end of the show it's pinned in the live chat. Download it to your phone, you're ready to go. And if you prefer watching it on the big screen, of course, as a lot of our viewers do, a lot of them tune in via smart TV, Rumble is available on major streaming devices and smart TVs. You don't even have to wait for the Roku channel. You can, presto, right now, have it ready to go. Of course, just searching for Rumble. You guys know the drill. I recommend it. We've worked with Rumble on their Rumble Studio. They are our streaming service, and cannot recommend them enough over our old partner, Restream. They've done a phenomenal job, and we intend to keep using them. So thanks to the Rumble crew for the help that you bring over to the show. Now, that said, I promised you some Jasmine Crockett nonsense. I thought having 3 Jasmine Crockett really stupid statements in a row in 1 week, I was getting greedy. I was getting gluttonous. I mean, we're talking Baptists in front of a dish of biscuits and gravy gluttonous, with a frosty Dr. Pepper gluttonous. It's too much to want more from Jasmine Crockett this week. Well, she's not DiGiorno because she delivers. Jasmine Crockett got out in front of the House when no one was asking for it. And again, just like Sheila Richardson, oh, they're attacking me for stealing because I'm black. Now you have Jasmine Crockett coming out and saying, well, the reason anyone's talking about Epstein is because someone's black. Epstein? Here's Jasmine Crockett.
Because I'm sorry, but like we don't have ethical like rules that say that you can't receive text messages or you can't respond to text messages, especially if somebody has a certain record and you can't do it in committee. We all be sitting on our phones, and yes, people be texting. I mean,
you know, I don't have text conversations with convicted sexual assaulters. I don't have text conversations with pedophiles. I'm gonna level with you guys. I don't think anybody has to do that. Now, I've never done it. I don't know. Maybe there's some magical, mystical appeal. Maybe, like, I don't know, you develop incredible ability to, I guess, make stupid decisions because Plaskett was texting her all through the congressional hearing, or texting Epstein all through the congressional hearing and taking orders, not just texting back and forth. Hey, how's the weather there in the Virgin Islands? No, he was coaching her. And now Crockett, she's got a problem. All right. She's got some questions to ask.
Our staff texts us, like everybody texts us, like people. I remember when I had the bleach blonde situation. You know who was texting me? My pastor. Okay, so.
Yes, yeah. That's the same thing. When Jasmine Crockett was getting in a fist fight with Marjorie Taylor Greene, her pastor texted her. That's just like taking orders on not to chew and who to ask about from convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. That's just the same. Well, your honor, I was hanging out with 2 people that evening. I was hanging out with my good friend, Jack the Ripper, and also Sister Mary from the local orphanage. They're the same. Okay.
Like, let me be clear. There is no ethical violation. And so the idea or the audacity.
She said there is no ethical violation. She just spoke on the floor of the House, reading a bunch of Jeffrey Epstein's on a list that she says donated to Republicans at a time before, like donating to George W. Bush's campaign. She listed that as like a gotcha, before Epstein had been charged or convicted of anything. And she listed that as an ethical complaint, which again, it was a totally different Jeffrey Epstein anyway. But that somehow works in Jasmine's mind. But if her colleague was taking direct orders from him post one of his convictions, all of a sudden, that's golden?
To decide that you want to strip a black woman of her committee assignment because she was texting with Epstein.
You know which black women deserve committee assignments? The ones who aren't texting pedophiles. You know which black women deserve committee assignments? The ones who don't commit mortgage fraud. Hey, you know which black women deserve committee assignments? The ones who have skills relevant to that committee and didn't bleep it up. You know which white men or Indian women or Chinese, orientally based, ethnically diverse men, whatever. People who deserve to be on committee have skills relevant to that committee. If I ever served in office, God forbid, I'd serve on an education committee. Duh, I have education experience. I taught, I administrated, I suffered through the nonsense. But if I get into office and then I commit a bunch of flagrant crimes, I don't deserve to be on the committee. This isn't difficult. It is for her. I mean, but then again, she thinks that she can run the exact same Senate campaign that Beto O'Rourke or Colin Allred ran, and totally this time it'll be different. This is the lady who believed that Jeffrey Epstein, spelled Geofffery with a PhD, is the same Jeffrey Epstein as the guy who spelled his name correctly and was a very rich person. But the Jeffrey with a G, the doctor, that donated $200 to George Bush. Totally the same guy. Incredible. The standard is so low. So low. Just going to level with y'all. Maybe, perhaps, we actually go through with electing individuals who can do basic arithmetic or spelling. But alas, it was too good not to depress the entire country. The reason, by the way, that all of this matters, that Congress does matter, the whole not elected by my colleagues thing, Al Green is back again. Al Green, you may remember, is the man who shook his cane at President Trump and then who showed a picture of himself shaking his cane at President Trump on the floor of the House, who has now filed all kinds of articles of impeachment. He says all of this matters. The Trump, the Mamdani, the Plaskett, the Epstein, the Jasmine Crockett for some reason, because they got to impeach him for his dastardly deeds, and also for saying that people who commit sedition and treason should, face what the law outlines as the punishment for sedition and treason. Here's Al Green.
I think that the Texas court made a proper decision. I believe that the Supreme Court should follow the rules, the ruling of the Texas court. But I also know this, the Supreme Court may not. And if it does not,
He's talking about redistricting. One of the things that all of the Democrats are tying together. The Texas court, the 3-judge panel, which struck down the Texas redistricting plan because right now the rule is you can racially segregate voting districts. Due to the Voting Rights Act, you can racially slice them and dice them. Now, the Supreme Court is in the middle of ruling on that. The Supreme Court's likely to drop a ruling that says, you can't use race to segregate people. Wild. Al Green's mad about this. And he's going to tie this into the same weird narrative the Democrats are really trying to push right now. They had a little momentum. They had a sliver of momentum, and you're going to see him throw it right in the trash can.
Still have to proceed. We cannot allow anything to get in the way of impeachment, conviction, and removal. That's what this is about. Impeachment, conviction, and removal.
The reason that the Democrats are desperate for racially segregated districts to be upheld, the reason that Democrats are desperate for the courts to remain activists, the reason that Democrats are desperate for civil unrest is so that when we get to the midterms, they are hoping that just somehow they can eke out a major super duper victory. They're convinced of this right now. And that means immediately, day one, impeachment. Now, I come from the state of Indiana where a bunch of our legislators just dropped the ball because they think that for some reason, Indianapolis should totally be a racially segregated district. Woohoo! Yeah, it sounds very good. And the reason that some have given, is that, what are we going to replace them with a mealy-mouthed moderate Republican? There are a lot of mealy-mouthed moderate Republicans in Congress right now. I don't see any of those filing articles for impeachment and slowing the entire country down to a nothing. Over nothing. Meanwhile, you have Democrats who are openly and clearly calling for sedition and rebellion in the United States military. Now, we've already covered this at length. And we're, one of the first to do so, may I add, in making it clear which statutes were violated. Now, since then, Trump has come out and said that those who have committed sedition should face the punishments for that. And he's retweeted that, there was a time in our nation's history and world history when those who committed treason and or sedition were hanged, because that is the legally prescribed historical precedent. That is what it is one of the few crimes in the United States that is federally punishable by death. Routinely. So, those things aside, there were a lot of people who got very, very upset and said Trump is calling for the execution of Elisa Slotkin got out there and started shaking her bangs back and forth again as quickly as she could. She's very, very grumpy and mad. And the counter to this is, well, they were just saying, like, to not obey a constitutional order. It would be similar to going to a doctor who is in the middle of operating on a patient and saying, hey, you know what? You know, if you really believe that stopping operating would be good for this person, you can do it. Maybe you should stop and think about it for a second. Maybe you should stop operating on this person and think about it. Is it really necessary? Yeah, I know his stomach's lying there on the table, but should you really finish this operation? Does it go against your conscience? Have you evaluated the Hippocratic Oath recently? After all, I mean, this man wasn't really dying of his stomach's lying there. He wasn't dying of it. I mean, but like now, what you're doing actually might be killing him. Think if you leave the stomach there, so should you really be doing this operation? Shouldn't you just walk away? I'm just asking questions. Yeah. No, you're not. And by the way, since this has occurred, since this accusation that has been drawn out of, oh, Trump and the constitutionally illegal orders. Oh, I can't believe the president of the United States would I mean, we're just saying, you know, maybe don't commit illegal orders. That's all. One of these individuals, Representative Jason Crow, he's one of the people who had come out and, you know, said, well, Trump was issuing illegal orders. I was just doing my duty as an American to alert everyone of these illegal orders. He has since been asked very overtly to state, well, what orders of the president's have you found so far, or Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, what orders do you think of that he's issued that are illegal, unconstitutional orders? See how he responds to this.
What reminding them of their obligation order from the commander-in-chief that we are asking our military to carry out are you objecting to? This is very, very vague. And it was so vague in this video, I don't think people could figure out what you guys were all talking about, honestly.
Martha, Donald Trump has made a series of very disturbing comments and suggestions that would violate U.S. law. And
Martha is doing a very good job here. Again, back to the Jack Posobiec. Ask a question. Now, we've had people on our show who we have asked questions to, and they do not answer the question. And so you either ask them again or you cut them off. No, I asked you a question. What order have you found that violates the Constitution or U.S. law or his oath as the commander-in-chief? Name one. You seem to think that there are enough that are being given that soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen have to be reminded of this. So put up or shut up. And he can't think of one. So now he's going to backtrack and obfuscate. Well, Trump has said some disturbing statements. Yes. Some disturbing statements, absolutely. Yeah, so has producer Nick, but none of those are unconstitutional. They just make me look at him for about 20 seconds in unbroken silence. If Trump says something that disturbing, you want to read what Alexander Hamilton and John Adams and John Quincy Adams wrote? John Quincy Adams was more of a pervert with American soldiers than any other president. And I know, by the way, I don't mean that as in he was always hitting on the troops. He described the United States military in some very weird ways in how they should operate. That's a little fun history fact you didn't ask for. In a way that was like deeply sexual and perverse. Not unconstitutional, really weird. I don't think that's a good idea. They made fun of it in the next presidential campaign. But no, you don't go, hey, you don't have to, if John Quincy's making you uncomfortable, he's suddenly not the commander-in-chief anymore. No!
People could figure out what you guys were all talking about, honestly.
Martha, Donald Trump has made a series of very disturbing comments and suggestions that would violate U.S. law and put our military in terrible positions.
Again, we're getting nowhere because you're not talking about an order.
I don't want to wait until that happens to remind our troops of their obligation, because then it'll be too late.
We have to tell people Donald Trump is going to do illegal things. Because if we wait for him to do illegal things, it will be too late. So you're interested in preemptively charging and convicting people before they do anything at all illegal? Well, that's rather, I mean, again, now it's starting to make a lot more sense why the CIA spooks were doing a video with the honored veterans. As one vet on X put it, to Mark Kelly, you stopped serving anyone but yourself the moment you took the uniform off. some of the actions of a lot of those who are currently in Congress and are using their rank. I hate this when anyone does it. I hate it when Corey Mills does it on the right. I hate it when a leftist veteran does it on the left. Do not use your title. Do not use your service as some type of magical argument of authority. It's a logical fallacy. Why you can say certain things and levy certain things and others can't. I've said this for a long time. You, as an average American, whether you have served or not, whether you've been a teacher or not, whether you've been a doctor or a nurse or not, have just as much right to pontificate on policy as anyone else. Anyone else. You want an argument as to why we should or shouldn't go to war or whether we should or shouldn't be involved in something? You are an American citizen. You say, well, but that means everyone can have an opinion. Yes, that is a downside of universal franchise. That means that even the stupid people get a say. Now, you want to talk about what it actually means and how maybe to reset what it means to carry certain franchise. That's a different conversation that gets very fraught, and a lot of countries have wandered down that path unsuccessfully. But yeah, I mean, stupid people are going to say things, but again, having status, having a title doesn't keep you from saying stupid things. Exhibit A. And all of the strong veterans of the military, and then also veterans of the CIA, who say, oh, I need you to understand, you must uphold your oath to the Constitution. They didn't. Elisa Slotkin coming out there and saying, I've got your back. None of those did when they were forcing troops to get the COVID-19 vaccine or be discharged. Again, vaccine in quotes. So at the end of the day, when we actually get down to the actions of those in Congress, maybe it's not too difficult to see why there's the fraud that takes place. If they're stupid enough to make videos like this and passionately defend really stupid actions and really bad logic, I mean, I don't know, maybe they did accidentally bump into fraud. Maybe they don't know if they're innocent or guilty. I don't know. I'm kind of starting to see stupid is stupid does, I guess. So those things aside, just a little bit of mail time for the end of the show. If you have a question over on the side of the show side of things, feel free to throw a message in the YouTube chat or the Rumble chat, or I suppose the X chat. Our producers are expertly standing by. It's a Friday. We haven't done a little Friday mail time at the end of the week. And y'all have had some excellent suggestions and questions. One of those from our very own David Mascura, who suggested that about once a month, I sit down with a Republican to my right, a Democrat to my left, and moderate a conversation. I'm very honored that you would listen to me moderate anything. I have moderated a few debates and speeches and, things here before. I very much doubt that a Democrat would be willing to sit down with very openly conservative Tony Kinnett to moderate a conversation between the right and the left, but we'll consider it. We will. There is actually I don't know if I should really tell you guys this or not, what the hey. There's a guy on the left named Mike Leon, who I do commentary with, kind of like a longer debate back and forth with like a Hannity and Colmes style thing. He actually used to be a producer for Hannity and Colmes. Every Tuesday over on NTD. That may turn into something more at a later point. It may not. So those things aside, I do want to answer another question that I have been looking forward to answering quite a bit earlier this week. And that is, in the United States, how do we actually move forward with cutting the federal bureaucracy? I got a lot of questions about whether the Trump can actually shut down the Department of Education. Linda McMahon talked about that a lot this week. A lot of our coverage, our Elizabeth Mitchell covered certain clinics and departments being shut down in various aspects across the government. Luke Rosiak over at the Daily Wire had the opportunity to preside after 10 years of work in getting a government agency shut down due to his reporting. Again, that the Dow Prize, one of the reasons I'm here this week. How do we actually go forward with getting rid of a lot of this junk? Now, I'm summarizing like 3 or 4 emails and questions into one that are along this theme. So if that's not quite what you asked, I'm sorry. The answer is you need Congress to not be lazy and to codify the actions the executive administration has taken care of. You need the president to rule that a lot of agencies don't need to be around or need their scope and size drastically reduced, or like FEMA, carved up into 50 and given to the states. There's no reason that your state shouldn't be the final authority on FEMA. There's no reason your state shouldn't be the final authority on SNAP. Unless we start talking about Minneapolis and the Somalian immigrant situation. It's like 3 cases over the last week in which Minnesota's Somalian population has been caught stealing very openly a lot of charity funds and NGO funds and, over 300 million to 600 million in taxpayer criminal fraud schemes that were meant to feed hungry children and to help the homeless and people with disabilities and to help kids with autism, and then just send those rote checks back to Somalia. That is a situation where the federal government might need to get involved. Again, just because a state runs a program fully doesn't mean the federal government can't provide oversight. We've seen that a little bit with SNAP. It needs to come with more strings, to be honest with you. But Congress has to codify things, or as soon as we get to the next administration, even if it's a Republican to a Republican administration in transition, a lot of that stuff is going to come out in the wash. Some things do actually have to continue in appropriation. You can't just defund it until it shuts down unless it's already the part of a parent organization. Some of these institutions have been brought into play in law, and you can't just throw out the law. The only two who can really throw out a congressional law are either the Supreme Court ruling the law is not constitutional, which maybe we want the Supreme Court to do that, but that's not what the Supreme Court is really supposed to do. Just any law I don't like is unconstitutional. No, that's like the anyone I don't like is Hitler argument. That's just as dumb. Congress is going to have to repeal some of their own laws. Yeah. Now that's a lot of work. Maybe you get something that you maybe don't want as much. But if you just leave the law to languish, it becomes Obamacare. And we've all seen how that's gone. So yeah, Congress is actually going to have to get it together. Now, I know I've given that answer before to y'all, but going to be honest with everybody. Going to be real level-headed with you. Just because the answer is difficult or I've given it before doesn't make it any less of the answer. Hopefully that actually means you find it more consistent. There's another question that I have also received a couple of times, maybe in jest, maybe in seriousness, one from a protester outside, whom I have now been told that some of the protesters outside are watching the show. Thanks for tuning in. The question is, do you look forward to, I guess, the confirmation that Trump gave some type of oral sexual service to Bubba, whether that means Bill Clinton or an oil tycoon or whatever? I could be wrong. I, in fact, could be incorrect here in this prediction. There's no way there's any evidence of that. Do you know why? Because Epstein asked in the email and he didn't get a reply. You think that wouldn't have leaked before now, really? Really? Trump's communications and tax records and everything have been selectively leaked, regardless of whether there were Democrats or powerful people or not involved in Trump's various affairs over the last 20, 30, 40 years. Because the argument that often comes back is, well, I don't think it's or they would have leaked. But no, they were protecting the powerful people and they kept Trump secret. Trump has been the exception in this rule almost every single time. I don't think I can name a time that something really bad about Trump has so far been kept from the public to protect someone more powerful. There's not an example of it that we found. In fact, what's more likely to happen is that the person in power that gets caught alongside Trump is like a victim, like Austria is considered the first victim of World War II, even though Austria totally wanted to become Nazi as much as the Germans did. Other powerful people who have been caught alongside Trump, for example, the Stormy Daniels case, they were treated as victims of Trump's masterminded schemes. There's no way there's evidence of this. Sorry. They call him Teflon Don for a reason. Everything that's known about the guy at this point is pretty much known. And I say that, again, if I am wrong, I will gladly admit it. I have poured through all these documents now. Does this mean that I think that, Attorney General Pam Boendi's done a phenomenal job with the Epstein files? No. Do I think that Kash Patel's done a super job? No. Do I think they will be here after 2026? I don't think that they necessarily have lived up to the standard that I've seen yet in a lot of the Epstein situation. They've done a phenomenal job on stopping a lot of the trafficking. They've done a phenomenal job on handling some of the investigations and referring information over on certain indictments and the strategies they've used. Yeah, that's wonderful stuff. But again, throughout all of this, I haven't seen anything yet that makes Trump look super duper stinky, awful, terrible. I'm not seeing it. It looks like, from what we've seen, Epstein used Trump like he used every other rich person in his life to try to go after people and to try to get further blackmail and leverage. What he had over Trump was Stormy Daniels. And once that popped and was out in the open, he then tried to give whatever he could to the Democrats to gain some leniency. And he failed. If I'm wrong and my prediction's wrong, I'll gladly tell you. That's the honest answer to your question at the end of the week, the mail time. That is how I'm reading it. Now you say, well, Tony, you're dumb. You haven't read it like I have. Okay. Maybe. That's my take. You asked. That said, last but not least, Tony, the split in the right. The split in the right. This is from a person with too many B's in their name. I can't really, pronounce this. Is the right going to split in half? Are we all going to die before midterms? No. No. Governing is harder than campaigning. Right now, the Republican Party is arguing things out in the open. And when you govern, you find out that some of the people that you campaigned alongside are big, dumb idiots who may have been useful when they were criticizing the same thing that you're criticizing. But not everyone criticizes things for the same reason. You say, Tony, can you give me an example of that that's not politicians? The joint lawsuits on parental rights with Muslim parents and Christian parents and Jewish parents. In those instances, not all of the parties involved wanted the exact same things for the same reasons. And just because you've allied with someone in the past doesn't mean you're beholden to ally with them forever. And additionally, sometimes it's worth sucking it up and fighting alongside certain people that you detest on certain issues. Yeah. Sometimes it's not. Do I think that, arguing out in the open is going to split the Republican Party in half? No. Republicans in this country, Democrats in this country, people in this country, they used to argue vehemently out in the open, and they weren't big wuss bags about it. Oh, he called me mean and stinky and bad. Now I'm done. I'm going to rant on Twitter about it. Yeah, okay. Or quit being soft. There's work to do. Doesn't mean that I have to support things people are saying. Doesn't mean I don't cut people out. Maybe I do want to cut people out. Oh, you're bad for cutting people out? Cool, fine. We'll keep marching. We'll keep doing the work. We'll cut where we want. We won't cut where we want. Quit being soft whenever someone criticizes you. Well, they've left angry comments about me. There are people right now in the comments who are saying mean things about me. Okay. And if Trump can look at Mamdani, look him dead in those brown rice eating with his hands eyes. Deep into those deep baby browns. I don't know what you could call brown eyes. Those deep spheres of mud-like stuff. My wife's eyes are brown, so I don't know how to compliment her eyes. How do you compliment a lady with blue eyes? Compliment a lady with green? How do you compliment a lady with brown eyes? I usually just sing that one song that talks about the brown-eyed girl. If you have any comments about how to compliment a lady with beautiful brown eyes, you let me know. But Trump looked into Mamdani's deep brown eyes and said, yeah, you just might as well call me a fascist. You're going to do it. I don't care. And, sorry, the wrong clip played there at the end. Nothing happened. Trump sometimes take things too personally, sure, but in that moment, let it roll off the back. I'm just saying, there's work to be done. That said, have a wonderful weekend. We will be back on Monday of Thanksgiving week here on the Tony Kinnett Cast with more back home in the Indiana studio. Appreciate y'all. We will see you sooner rather than later. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated. Hang on. I realize I also didn't talk about the Russia-Ukraine agreement plan, peace proposal, like was in the pro notes or in the show notes. We'll have to get to that Monday because I'm dead tired, and we'll do more on the show on Monday. You'll have to come back and find out. Oh, I know you're desperately excited about it. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC. Take care.